have some slides for monsoon winds, land sea breezes, mountain valley breezes, which should help out a little bit here. When we think of monsoons, we often think of a lot of rain and we consider it a rain event, but monsoon is a wind event that happens to bring rain with it, or it happens to bring dry conditions with it. But dry conditions don't necessarily make for really good news for North America, so we don't hear about dry monsoons. But across North America, Asia, and Africa are monsoons, and the African monsoons and the North American monsoons are weaker than the Asian monsoons. And that goes back to what I was saying a couple of slide sets ago with the size of Asia. You've got this massive, massive continent that is absent of heat in the wintertime and full of heat in the summertime. And then you're next to two very large bodies of water, the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. And the contrast between those warmer bodies of water with the very cold air on those land masses, and then, of course, the very warm air on those land masses contrasted with the cooler ocean bodies produce this massive pressure gradient that creates these very strong winds that come onto and off of India and onto and off of the continent of Asia, across China, Japan, Korea, and into Mongolia and Russia. So to keep in mind the conditions that we were talking about with summer and winter heating and cooling of land and water, what we find in the summertime is that water is going to be cooler than the land masses. So because it's cooler, we're going to have a high pressure cell on the ocean bodies. And again, here in the Pacific Ocean, cooler conditions here in the Pacific Ocean than on land. So this is going to be a high pressure cell here. And remember, wind moves from high to lows. So because the land is very hot in the summertime and very hot in the summertime, this wind is going to come with, and it's going to pick up the moisture off of the Pacific and pick up the moisture off of the Indian Ocean. And we're going to push that on land into Mongolia, into China, into Russia, from the Pacific Ocean here, and then into India, and then into the Himalayas and across southern China from the Indian Ocean. Now, the monsoons for the summertime across India get a lot more attention because what has to happen here is the water that's coming onto land encounters this large mountain range, and it sort of gets pushed against this mountain range, and it wants to go and usurp that mountain range. It wants to get pushed over top of it, but in order to do so, it has to rain out, so that we get exceptionally intense rain in the northern part of India and through Bangladesh. And it fills and swells the Brahmaputra and the Ganges River, and then floods Bangladesh essentially. So this is why the monsoons get so much attention, is because we have this what we call orographic uplift, because of the location of the geography of the mountain ranges across the continent here. The same thing does not exist to the same extent in Asia here, although we have a series of mountain ranges. They're not nearly as high, they're not as formidable. The Mongolian plateau, we need to rise up onto with this, but we've got a larger volume of land for which that moisture can be distributed over. So we get an enormous amount of rain across here, but it's not nearly as intense, and it can get captured with more river systems, so the volume of flooding isn't as great. That's the summer monsoon, which is the wet monsoon. The dry monsoon is a winter phenomena. So now the land mass is absent of heat, which means it's going to have a high pressure cell. So we're going to have a high pressure cell out here over China, and we're going to have a high pressure cell sitting over Mongolia, Russia, and China here. Water, on the other hand, is giving up its moisture and giving up its heat. So we're going to have a low pressure cell sitting over the Indian Ocean and sitting over the Pacific Ocean. So we're going to get a reversal of the direction of the wind. So because we're not carrying any moisture, the wind coming across India and across Japan and the Korean Peninsula and Vietnam are going to be dry as a result. So dry monsoons are winter monsoons. All right, there's monsoon, and I've got a video for that.